Hi, and welcome back to the Core Coaches Corner, where we take a principle from one of the 7 core healthy and happy habits and principles and discuss them together. Today, I'm joined again with Camille.
Hello, happy to be here. Today we're going to talk about core and specifically I'm an O, you're an O. So we're going to talk about I thought it'd be kind of interesting to talk about be a little personal here and talk about some of the strengths and the weaknesses of the O temperament and specifically what I struggle with as well being an O and how I work through it
I
or
know.
lack thereof.
Yeah.
At least how I try to work through it with skills, partnerships, and what was the last one?
Skills, processes, or partnerships.
Skills, processes, or
Yeah,
partnerships.
and that's a really good thing to point out right then. When there are very predictable things that each temperament has lots of things that they naturally do in healthy ways. Healthy doesn't change with your personality, your temperament, or your age, or whatever. Healthy is healthy, and there are certain things about each temperament that line up really well with healthy, and certain things about each temperament that are incongruent with healthy. When the way that our brains naturally work is incongruent with healthy, we can either develop a skill, a process, or a partnership to help us do the healthy thing that doesn't come naturally to us.
Well, and when I first learned about core, and I think this is a lot of people's story, I grew up in a family, I'm number 7 out of 8. And so I grew up with 2 parents that are probably what I would call type A or kind of dominating. My dad's an R. Now I know my dad's an R. My mom's an E. And so I grew up just kind of feeling like my little self was too much. I was a little bit more verbal than some of my siblings. I kind of grew up feeling like I needed to be more quiet and be less social
Yeah,
and not get into trouble at school as much. And so sometimes how we grew up and some of those things that we struggle with, when you're an adult and you're still struggling with that, you feel like you have to be different. But that was before I met you. And when I met you and I learned about my ownness, I realized, yes, there are some things that I wish were different, but I'm actually pretty great. And some of the things that makes me a great person also are some of the things I struggle with. It's a package deal,
totally.
right?
And so sometimes you feel like a square peg in a round family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your
Mm-hmm.
temperament makes you feel like you don't quite fit in the family culture, or what is kind of held or valued.
Well, and of course, like just to bring a little plug of attachment, obviously the 2 lenses in which we look at the past, present, and future, the way we do patterns of our life is through core and attachment. And
Yeah.
so today we're talking about core.
Yes. Very good. So let's get personal.
Let's get personal.
So what are some things that you feel are aspects of your O temperament that are particularly challenging?
So I'll go through them one by one, just kind of off the
We
top
only
of
have
my
a few
head of the
minutes.
many, many things. No, so I would say that I love people. I'm very sociable. I'm verbal. I like to communicate well. Some of the hard things that come with that. So people, that comes really easy to me. I think I'm well liked. I think I wouldn't say I'm the life of the party, but I contribute to the party being fun for
Absolutely.
sure.
You're
Um,
social, high social IQ.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And of course, I'm an OC. And so I feel like the C also helps me be cognizant of like the emotional temperature of social situations. I would say that I have a read on that very easy. I have a lot of friendships and I go deep in my friendships. Like I don't have really shallow friendships. Now, some of the hard things that come with that are I can spread myself too thin. I can make people not feel unique and special to me because I have a lot of different things that are vying for my time. I think that I bring a light energy and optimism to life, of course, which is very but I can also really have a hard time if stuff is heavy or like engaging in situations that I know are going to be heavy or difficult for me. I have a really hard time wanting to stay in that, you
Yeah.
know?
Or
Um,
get in it at all.
yeah. Yes. I think I live in the present, and I think that's great because I give people my full attention, but as a result, I can lose track of time. I can not be as structured and routine oriented as I should be. I cannot get stuff done that I really need to get done because I'm living in the present with people and will always pick being with people that I love over, like doing laundry or
Yeah.
something. Is that a good place to start?
Those are really great places to start. I think one of the easiest things to just kind of comment on is the spread too thin. One of the strengths of the O is seeing the potential in things. O's see the potential in people and businesses and opportunities and service and whatever. The O brain loves figuring things out and sees the potential in people and things. And the O is really interested in a lot of things.
It's authentic.
It's not feigned, it's not fake. It's really easy for the O to jump into the middle of a TV show or of a movie or the middle of a conversation or a game. It's really easy for the O to get interested in things and to say yes to lots of things. And as a result of that, it's easy for O's to get spread too thin, to overcommit and to be trying to do everything. O's have a really hard time saying no to the potential of fun or a good time, and so they want to say yes to everything, and then they end up being spread too thin, which is one of the things that you mentioned, which is a real common pitfall. I think a really valuable thing to talk about for a few minutes is the challenge that O's have in saying no. It's a really predictable challenge for the O brain, and I think it would be helpful to our viewers and listeners to break that down a little bit.
Yeah, I would definitely say that I struggle with disappointing people. Again, like when we think about our lives and part of what we do with our clients and when we're learning about all this stuff is looking at the patterns in which you're doing why you're doing what you're doing in order to get to a healthy place, right? And so it is one of the benefits of working with us and working with a coach is like you're able to kind of figure out patterns and see how, if I want to have a different outcome, how am I going to do things differently? And why am I doing things this way? And when I want a different outcome than that. And so I definitely think that it's been something that I've struggled with. I think attachment plays into it, of course, like what we talked about. But I also think my ownness plays into patterns of behavior where I have struggled with holding space for myself and expressing if I'm not okay with something, expressing it's almost like I take the hit over the other person. And it's something that I have currently struggle with, and want a different outcome from in the future.
Yeah. So
Change does not happen overnight. It happens over a period of time. And so, you're laughing.
no, change is really hard.
But I'm saying, I just think like as I look back at things, I'm like, okay, well, I've gotten a little bit better. I can do better here. But I also think growth doesn't happen overnight.
The key is for us to be moving in that direction. There are several predictable aspects of this, of onus, that kind of coalesce to make it difficult. And in my research and in working with O's, saying no and self-abandoning is a really predictable challenge that O's have. And
do any of the other temperaments, I know we're just specifically talking about O's, but I'm just curious, would you say that any of the other temperaments, like do C's struggle with that?
Yeah, C's and O's both struggle with that.
So we got a double dose of struggling with it.
Yeah. one of the ways that I figured this out for myself was really batting my head against this in my own personal life for years and years and years. And I continued, and especially, a big part of this has to do with how many resources you have and your ability to manage your life. But after we lost our son, and I fell into really a depressive state for years and years and years, that I didn't cope super well with, and we could talk about that in lots of different ways. But I found myself in a pattern of trying to fill roles in people's lives that I couldn't healthfully fill, and in continually, repeatedly, not continually, repeatedly saying yes to situations that I wasn't okay with and that I didn't feel good about because of some of the O dynamic that I didn't understand. And it was actually through my research on core that I really was able to wrap my brain around this journey for myself and understand it much better. So O's live in the present, and the primary motivator for the O brain is pleasant emotion. O's want to be enjoying themselves all the time. They like pleasant emotion. They like to have fun. They bring light, buoyant energy. They want other people to feel good and to be having fun. And O's have a really low tolerance for negative emotion, for pain and hassle and those kinds of things. And so you take those things together, and O's are pleasers. And so what ends up happening is whoever an O is with becomes the priority, because O's live in the present. And if an O is having fun and enjoying themselves, then they want to keep doing it. One more game, one more mile, one more store, one more movie, one more episode, one more whatever. As long as the present moment is pleasant, the O will keep going and keep going and keep going. And it's really hard, because they live in the present and because they're motivated by pleasant emotion and avoiding unpleasant emotion, then whoever the O is with in the moment, which kind of gets at another thing that you mentioned with O's, whoever they're with gets the specialness, right? And people love how they feel when they're with O's until they realize that other people also get that same kind of specialness from their O. But that creates this context where O's can feel like whoever they're with, they need to try to give whoever they're with what they're looking for. And because they want to avoid conflict, they want to avoid making anybody feel uncomfortable, it's really easy for an O to get in this pattern of saying yes to whatever the person they're with wants of them or what they think they want of them, and sacrificing their own selves, even sometimes their own values, in order to avoid the discomfort and the unpleasantness of being true to yourself. I kept doing variations of this and doing what I either thought the other person wanted or what I knew they wanted, and then really beating myself up about it later because I created a mess of my life. And doing the research on core really helped me to understand that process and what was going on, and enabled me to develop skills and processes to be able to change that unhealthy dynamic in my life.
I think that's entirely what happens. And I think that you touched completely on, when we talked about in the beginning, we all have healthy and unhealthy aspects of it, and healthy connection and valuing what other people think of you is a very healthy thing. Self-abandoning and self-sacrificing yourself in an effort to please others is not. Sometimes when you're in the moment, because you're living in the present, and most often, sometimes we're having these interactions with people that we really care about, that we have strong relationships with. Sometimes it's not, sometimes they don't have a big part of our life, but most often they do. And so I think when I'm thinking about myself and like what's happening in my brain as I'm letting things that I don't choose outrightly, I start to think, how did I get here? How is this happening? What has led me up to this? And I think part of it is putting other people's comfort or whatever
desires, needs,
wants.
wants.
Yeah, above yours in an effort to be favored by them or liked by them even. I just think I have a lot of different, a perfect example is this. I have a lot of different women that I love in my life, and I like best friends that I've collected over years of living with different people. And if ever I go visit a place where multiple people live, they all want me to stay with them. They all want my time. And I want to be with each and every one of them specifically. And so, like on the outside, I think it sounds also a little like self-inflated, maybe that everybody wants me to be around them, but it's not that. It's that I love people. They love me. We go deep. And I have that with multiple people. And so I struggle with this not only with relationships with men or in my former marriage, but also within my friendships with women.
Yeah. And it is that a lot of times O's will avoid difficult conversations or putting up the boundary or talking about who you're going to stay with or what you're going to do because they're avoiding that situation. And oftentimes you'll end up making a much
worse.
Yeah, a much more difficult situation and end up hurting people's feelings because you're not communicating well. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you've shared in the past, like, even like boyfriends in high school or,
mm-hmm.
Things like that, where this plays out a lot with physical kinds of things and sexual kinds of things where boundaries can be crossed and somebody can be wanting to do things with or to you and this dynamic plays out and you find yourself doing things that you don't want to be doing and having a hard time saying no when you really do want to be saying no.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing that makes me not want to turn my food back to the waiter because it's not what I wanted is the same thing that makes me not want to disappoint somebody's expectations of me.
Yes. So what do you do about it? How do you healthfully manage this?
Well, I think the first step, Dr. Slade, is being aware, because I think that's the whole point of all this is to realize, what am I doing? What outcome do I want? What puddle do I keep stepping in? How can I make things different? Being aware is the first step. And then when you have your rational brain and you're maybe not in situations, you have a plan beforehand of when you feel a certain way, or if you feel, always communicating is going to be the best thing. But sometimes like communication takes skill and it takes holding space for yourself. So if your baby giraffe legs are still baby giraffe legs and you're still working that muscle, and that's actually what I think of it is like, I think of it as a muscle because in my past, I've been a personal trainer and I've been in nutrition. And I just think anything, you have to stretch your bandwidth of unpleasantness, uncomfortableness, and you have to be okay with making the decision in the moment that's going to give you the outcome that you want and not what feels good in the moment, which is basically a Band-Aid.
Yeah, absolutely. And baby giraffe legs is a good analogy. And there's a reason why giraffes are running within minutes of birth.
Do I need to pick a different animal then?
No, you don't. The point is that a pattern that I see really repeatedly with O's is them not being in enough pain to practice, because it comes down to practice, right? You get good at something by practicing it. You strengthen a muscle by exercising it. And so you have to be aware and then you have to practice. Mm-hmm. And if you stop at awareness and don't practice, then you don't ever learn how to run, right? You don't ever learn how to cope. And so you have to practice doing it and realize, oh, this does work. And I've seen so many O's across the years who end up waiting until their lives are a shambles. Addiction, unwanted pregnancies, ruined relationships, ruined careers. Part of the O brain too is that O's, because they don't want to address or face negative emotion, O's have a hard time doing a lot of internal processing and really assessing about what's going on, assessing what's going on under the hood. And so they'll just keep avoiding it and thinking, oh, that was just a one-off, or that was an anomaly, or man, I'm glad that that's over. I drank too much last night. Or so often they wait until they're in so much pain, because pain motivates us. They'll wait until they're in so much pain that they're finally willing to really look under the hood and see what's going on, and then practice moving forward. And that's a
Mhm.
huge difference, I think, between being a healthy O and an unhealthy O is how many times we step in the puddle.
Well, and I just want to add that one of the things that you've really taught me too is that our brain, when we are out of our window of tolerance, or if we're in a disorganizing emotional moment, if we don't have those brain patterns there of practicing, our brain is going to default to the unhealthy behavior that was in the past that our brains have always done.
Yes.
And so it's really important. And I say this advice the most for myself of changing that default brain pattern in the moment of those hard things, because that way the more you do it, the more it'll become natural and it'll become your brain's like reset.
Yeah. One of the things that has helped me is through my own journey, I came to call what I was doing emotional prostitution because I was emotionally prostituting myself. That's a powerful, for me, that's a really
It's a
powerful
visual that
imagery.
stays with you. And I've heard you say that multiple times.
Yeah.
And it has stuck with me as well because it's a blatant way of saying self-abandoning, but with context of what is really happening.
Right. And it helps me to realize that I don't want to be an emotional prostitute. and and that it doesn't and the real key is O's do this because they think they're helping. I'm not going to hurt so and so by telling them that I'm not going to stay, that I'm staying at my other friend's house and not their house. I don't want to hurt their feelings, so I'm not going to say that. Or I'm not going to tell, I'm not going to fire this employee because I don't want him to feel bad or whatever. The reality is that you're not doing anybody any favors by not communicating well and by emotionally prostituting yourself, because it creates resentment, it creates regret, it creates yuckiness in the relationship that just festers and becomes worse and worse and worse, that erodes things. So it really comes down to awareness, understanding, and then practicing
Over and over and over and over and over
right
and over again.
Yeah, and not kicking the ball down the road, because if you understand that you live in the future, if you understand that you live in the present and you're avoiding something because it's not fun or enjoyable right now, well, as soon as you're in that next present, it's not going to be any different. It's not like suddenly that present you're going to feel more like putting up the boundary. But it's just like, I don't want to do it right now. It's like, and I don't want to deal with it right now. But the reality is that it's not going to be any easier next time. In fact, it gets harder and harder when there are healthy things that you need to do that you keep waiting to do. It just gets harder.
I saw Wicked this past weekend, and when Glenda is in the bubble and the pretty, pink and purple bubble, and she's floating through, and then somebody keeps popping it, or she even keeps popping it, and she's like, she's out of the bubble. That's how it feels like for me sometimes. And again, I'm not making a likeness to me with being Glenda, but the good witch, but that is a little bit how it is, where you're just like, I don't want to pop my little pretty bubble. Again, thinking about the end goal and what you want, and that you do want to change the patterns of the behavior, helps you be able to understand that you do have to pop the bubble, or else you're the one that's taking the hit.
Yeah, really good point. So any of you O's listening, I would just invite you to pick something. There's probably a list of things that you're avoiding. And I would invite you to pick something that you've been putting off and practice it within the next couple of days. And I would encourage you to write it down and do that. What am I trying to say? I'm not trying to say anything. I'm saying it really, really overtly. So, Camille, what are you going to do in the next few days that you've been avoiding?
Well, I have a list, Dr. Slade. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'm going to verbalize what my list is.
Write it down.
Okay, I will write it down.
Right now.
You're popping my bubble.
Take a second and write it down. Make a decision now. It's the present. Now's the time to make the decision.
Okay.
Where's your phone? Oh, I'm on your phone. Do you have something to write it down with?
I do not.
I'm going to write mine down, and I'm going to do it tonight because I want to get better and better at this principle, because it is one of the biggest pitfalls of being a healthy versus an unhealthy O. And I want to be a healthy O. So do you know what you're going to do?
Yes.
Yeah? When are you going to do it?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay. I would invite all you to do the same thing that we just did.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have to be good at it. You're not going to be good at this at first. And you will never get good at it if you don't practice it. As you practice it, you'll get better at it.
And if any of this resonated with you, where you see certain patterns or you see yourself struggling in this, please let us know. We'd love to hear your feedback and just how you cope with being able to handle this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Camille. Great talk. And I wrote down the other things that you talked about, which are really great things for us to explore
next time.
Way to go.